Hey there, House here. Remember when I said in my last video that I had a feeling about week 3? Well, that feeling was misplaced. I went 6 and 10, bringing my overall record to 19, 28 and 1. This is without a doubt the worst start to an NFL prediction season that I've ever had. As of right now, at the very least, I can give you predictions that'll help you make your own decisions. Like, Kevin thinks that this team will win. Let me go the other way on that one. Kind of a scenario. So with that, let's start with week 4, shall we? We start off with Thursday night's game tonight, Bengals versus the Dolphins. I know by the time you watch this, the game is already in motion. I can assure you, and you're not going to doubt me, that I have my picks set before the game start. We have Bengals versus the Dolphins. Tua's coming into this game with a few nagging injuries, that really nasty head injury and possible concussion that we all thought he had last week, back injury, ankle injury. He was expected to play, and he is playing in this game. It just depends on how long is he actually going to be able to stay in this game and how effective will he be. The Bengals got their first win of the season last week. I'm expecting them to start getting on a roll themselves. They are relatively healthy at this point. I'm picking the Bengals in this matchup. Next up, in our London game, we have the Saints versus the Vikings. This one, talking about injuries, Kamara for the Saints has been banged up the last couple of weeks. He didn't play 2 weeks ago, and I think last week he was really limited if he did play. Jameis Winston is also dealing with 4 fractures in his back, and Michael Thomas hurt his ankle again. So who's to say if he's going to miss any time or if Flex will be out there? If he does get out there, he'll probably be less than 100%. They're going against this Vikings team that just beat the Lions last week, and they're still fully healthy with Cousins and Justin Jefferson. Cook has a bit of a shoulder issue with the dislocation issue that he's been dealing with, but he is expected to play in that game. I'm picking the Vikings here. Next up, Lions versus Seahawks. As I kind of called it the last couple of weeks, Geno Smith has been pretty bad. Now also, in that similar time frame, any time that I pick the Lions to win, they seem to lose. So we're going to see if we can buck that trend. I'm picking the Lions here. Next, we have the Steelers versus the Jets. The Jets are set to have the return of Zach Wilson at starting quarterback, and I had to go back to last year's stats to remind myself how he did. He didn't do very well. He had a total of 9 passing touchdowns, and I don't even believe he got over 3,000 passing yards and multiple interception games. It's just going to be a rough first game back for him against the Steelers defense that can still get after the quarterback. I'm picking the Steelers. Giants versus the Bears. Giants lost a tough one on Monday Night Football. Saw a stat that says that Daniel Jones is now 0-8 in primetime games. So since this is a noon game, he should play pretty well. Plus Barkley is back and he's running strong. I'm picking the Giants in this one. Colts versus the Titans. A game with 2 running backs that are supremely underutilized and slightly underperforming so far this year. Last week, the Colts used Taylor early and often, which was a good sight to see, but then they're also continuing to go with Matt Ryan and throwing the ball down the field a bunch. So I guess we'll see how long they keep mixing that one in. In this matchup, I like the Colts here. I think Taylor gets going early, and they try to put it away before Henry can start getting going with a full head of steam. Next, Texans versus the Chargers. Earlier this week, we saw that Justin Herbert, who has been dealing with fractured cartilage in his rib cage, logged a full participation in practice, which is huge. He didn't suffer any further setbacks or injuries during playing last week. He's going to start getting healthier as day in and day out from here on. So that's going to be huge for the Chargers, and they're going to steamroll whoever the Texans put out there now. Next up, Falcons versus the Browns. As far as I'm concerned, the Falcons still have Marcus Mariota, who I don't trust, so I'm picking the Browns here. Cowboys versus the Commanders. Last couple weeks, Cooper Rush has been the starter for the injured Dak Prescott, and he has played surprisingly well, keeping this team in an early hunt, not just writing them off right away with another Dak injury, going against the Commanders team that has an inconsistent Carson Wentz. It's an easy pick. I'm picking the Cowboys here. Next up, we have the Eagles versus the Jaguars. Nobody's hotter than the Eagles right now. I don't think that'll stop. The Jaguars might offer a little bit more of resistance on offense than the Commanders did, like I predicted last week and was wrong. So that might make it a closer game, but I'm still picking the Eagles. Ravens versus the Bills. This should be a really, really fun matchup to watch. The Ravens and Lamar Jackson is doing everything right now, still playing under the final year of his contract, looking for a payday, and playing like an MVP caliber quarterback. Going against the Bills, who lost a tough one last week, but they still have one of the best defenses and the most talented offense out there right now. I'm picking the Bills in a high-scoring affair. All right, we have the Panthers versus the Cardinals. I still like Kyler Murray. They're still a few weeks away from getting DeAndre Hopkins back, but their offense can still funnel through Murray and play well enough to beat this Panther team. Picking the Cardinals. Next up, we have the Raiders versus the Broncos. Even though they got a win last week, nobody is playing worse, in my opinion, than Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. They won last week's game 11-10, if memory serves. So their defense is playing a bit better, but their offense is nowhere near what it needs to be competitive in not only this football game, but in any football games in the future. The Raiders, who are a very surprising 0-3, are going to get their first win this week, putting my stamp on it. Next up, Packers versus the Patriots. The Patriots are down Mac Jones. He has a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss 3 or 4 weeks, if not longer. They're going to go to veteran backup Brian Hoyer, who hasn't started a game in who knows how many years. It's not going to be pretty. I'm picking the Packers here. Sunday Night Football, we have the Bucs versus the Chiefs. Now, the last time these two teams met, it was a Super Bowl a couple years ago. That one wasn't very entertaining. It was pretty much a blowout. The Bucs got after Mahomes and made him look as uncomfortable as anybody ever has. I'm thinking something's going to happen a little bit different now, even though they have one less weapon than they had in the Super Bowl with no Tyreek Hill. But this offense can still get rolling, and they're going to go past this Buc team. Last up on Monday Night Football, we have the 49ers versus the Rams. Now, this was a tough one. I wasn't quite sure which way I was going to lean on this one. The Rams' defense obviously is nowhere near what it was last year, and their offense has not come out of the gate as hot as they did before. The Niners are a bit in the air with now Jimmy Garoppolo, their starter for the rest of the year after the Trey Lance injury. Their defense has been very stout to the start of the year. I'm picking the Niners and their defense to get a score and them to win the game. Well, there you have it. Those are my picks. Thank you for tuning into the House Report. If there were some selections that I made that you disagree with, which I'm sure there will be, please leave your own selections in the comment section. Lastly, to all my betting friends out there, remember, you win some and you'll lose some, but the house always wins.